Welcome, everybody. I'm Stephen Foskett, your host for Tech Field Day, and we are here at Cloud Field Day number 8. This is our 8th Cloud Field Day event, and we are thrilled to be joined by our friends from NetApp. This is a company that that will be very familiar to regular Tech Field Day viewers. We've seen NetApp many, many times over the years, and we've watched as the company has transformed itself into a cloud-focused, even cloud-first provider. So we're really excited to see what they have to say here at Cloud Field Day, since this is obviously, the next step along that path. If you've enjoyed these presentations, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for staying, and thank you for your comments and your involvement. All of these presentations are recorded and will be shared on our YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com/techfieldday. I am pleased to announce that we already have the first 2 sessions from yesterday published on our YouTube channel. Thank you very much to the work of Sam and Ben doing the editing, and of course Prime Image doing the live editing for all these sessions. We will be posting sessions just as quickly as we are able, and you'll find those again on our YouTube channel. You'll also find those in all of our other social media accounts. Look for us on Twitter, on Facebook, and of course techfieldday.com, where you can learn how to become a delegate. Just click on the delegates menu, and there's a menu there that says Become a Field Day Delegate. You can also learn how to bring your company to a future Field Day event. Just click Sponsors, and you can learn more there. So we are here with NetApp. Please join the conversation. Go over to Twitter, use hashtag CFD8, since this is the 8th Cloud Field Day event, and then we'll see it in our Twitter feed. You can also tweet at NetApp and contact them in any other way. I know that they're a big company with a lot of social media presence as well. We're trying something special here as well. In addition to streaming on our website and on Facebook, which we usually do, we're working on streaming to LinkedIn. So this is probably appearing on the NetApp LinkedIn page as we speak. I say probably because this is the first time we've done it. So that's been an exciting new experiment. Thanks a lot, NetApp. Also, we've got a live stream from another NetApp folks. Nick, hello, welcome from the Discord. They've got a live stream on YouTube with a watch party. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see what happens there too. So, man, we're everywhere. This is so exciting. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the fine folks from NetApp. Geoff, Niraj, take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephen. We're really pleased to be here. Wish we could be in the same room because I love the game of Stump the Chump. Just in case you're wondering, I'm the chump. Niraj Verma, who's with me as our solutions architect. That's the really understands the ins and outs, is going to walk you through a demonstration of what we're doing with cloud data services. Just for background, I've recently joined NetApp about 2 months ago, but I've been in the cloud for a long time. This will see if this elicits a smile. Remember the iOmega Jazz and Zip drives from the 1998, mid 1990s? I wrote the first continuous data backup software for that. That was ultimately acquired by Symantec. So that's how long I go back in storage. In 2007, was with Cloud Object Storage and sold my first Cloud Object deal back then. Transition with HPE and cloud storage, and then now here at, very happy to be at NetApp driving that. Niraj, I'll let you have a little bit of background on yourself.
Thanks, Geoff. Thank you to the team at Cloud Field Day for having us today. I'm Niraj Verma. I'm a solutions architect here in CDS BU. I focus on a Google Alliance mainly, and I've been here for about 20 months. It's been an amazing 20 months to be part of this amazing innovation and cloud ethos here at NetApp. So I really look forward to the discussion today with our esteemed delegates. Thank you all for taking the time today and joining us. I look forward to learning from your experiences as well, and I welcome any feedback on what you see today, good or constructive. So thank you.
Raj, we could go to the first slide. So if we talk about NetApp, everybody knows NetApp probably through various interactions with the data center in their lives or in their careers. It's about a 25-year-old company, which really is interesting because Bezos and Hitz both went to Princeton together back in the day, back in the 80s. And, we're coming back around now. The NetApp and the bookstore turns into a massive cloud provider. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey from the traditional data center into the virtualization and into the cloud. And NetApp's been part of that every step along the way, from the first really attached storage, external attached storage vendor, with a presence across the Fortune 500 data centers, moving into things such as FlexPod and HCI, and now moving into full Kubernetes container-based workloads We've been through that journey, and now we're bringing that journey to the cloud. And that is very important, because if you look at the basis of this journey, it's all about data and having access to that data. And now we really need a very versatile data fabric to run the enterprise for the future. And this means a data fabric that can span multiple clouds. It's the data fabric that can span hybrid, on-prem, bursting into cloud, and can bring the data to the user wherever that user is, which is some acquisitions that we've made, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. So it has been a journey, and we're not done yet. The journey will continue, but certainly one of the biggest things that's impacting our strategy is how fast things are emerging in the development cycles. We've gone from the old waterfall methodology back in the 90s that I studied in my computer science classes, et cetera, now into the Scrum and the Agile methodologies, and now we're going straight into CI/CD. And so the pace of change is just phenomenal. Next slide. And so this digital transformation is what we're here to talk about, and we're going to talk about the two platforms primarily that's driving those first, and then we're going to talk about what we're doing with SAP later. But this core basis is you've got $1 trillion being spent on digital transformation, and there's probably that was before what the world that we're living in right now with COVID and the remote workers and having to bring and extend the perimeters of the data center to people's houses. What a crazy experience that has been across the world for enterprise ITs and CIOs as they've had to become very agile. And this means modernizing and simplifying IT systems so it's you get a consumer-like feel for consuming this capability. And we see these collaboration platforms like Zoom exploding. We got to build the new cloud-native applications. We got over 2 million enterprise applications. Not all of them are going to be transitioned to a cloud-native application. Some will go to SaaS, some will be retired, and yes, some will be re-platformed into cloud-native architecture. And it's about that data-driven fabric of giving customers choices and enterprises choices to build a very flexible fabric for that. And so very simply, our mission, I wanted to put it up here. It's not a pretty slide, but it's easy to follow along with. There's no bouncing ball, but I'll tell you. It's to be about the #1 platform for shared storage, cost optimization, and modern workplace. And drum roll, across any public cloud of your choice. Because we believe in a multi-cloud future. We're staking our bet on that. Anthony Lai, who is our SVP for our cloud business unit and our cloud data center and public cloud services business unit, is very aggressively going after that, and we're matching our words with our actions and the acquisitions that we've made. We just announced Spot, which I'll get to in a minute. So we're very excited to be taking the data center into this. So let's talk about what we're doing, because maybe this will give some context about what Niraj is going to give you the hands-on view of today with Cloud Volumes. So at the baseline of this, as I mentioned, is this data fabric. So it's about shared storage across all of your compute environments. And you know NetApp probably for ONTAP, right? Which is our enterprise grade. It's it's kind of the gold standard for file-based storage across the enterprise. And we have brought that with products into each one of the cloud providers, into AWS, into Azure, and most importantly, and what we're here to talk about today is with Google and GCP, where we're seeing a great amount of uptake in. And so this is all about bringing the same experience, and even better, that you can get in your data center into the cloud environment. So things such as copy on write snapshots, thin provisioning, data deduplication, snap mirrors, flex clones, all of these capabilities that drive a lot of enterprises across our 30,000 customers today. Now they can bring those into the cloud and help them on that cloud journey. And the workloads that we're focused on there are the workloads that run the enterprise: SAP, RDBMSs with SQL, MySQL, all of the MongoDB, all the new database architectures. Of course, VMware with GCVE, which is Google's new VM cloud offering. We can provide file storage for that as well. And high performance computing, ML, AI. These are all the new workloads that are requiring high performance enterprise grade, replicated, zone tolerant, region tolerant failure with, get to 4 nines of availability. So that's what we're focused on. That's what we're going to talk today about. But I at least want to paint the picture of what we're doing in these other stovepipes. Well, not stovepipes, but verticals, if you will. So one is about cloud cost optimization, which spans across both the storage component and the compute component. So we have Cloud Insights, which is our analytics capability that provides full insight into all the operational metrics across multiple cloud. So that's a good one from just IT operations management perspective. But we also just acquired Spot, and Spot can reduce customers' AWS and cloud bills and GCP, et cetera, down 70–80%, because it basically monitors all unused capacity and can look at the best fit instances, even using Spot instances when those are available. So a lot of AI, ML embedded in that allows it to rapidly cost optimize your IT delivery. That means more money can be spent on adding value into customers. And then ultimately in the modern digital workspace with remote offices, work from home, et cetera, VDI is becoming an essential service, right? Taking a shared Windows service and extending that into people's homes, but in a secure manner. So we acquired CloudJumper, which is now our virtual desktop services portfolio. We also acquired something called Talon, which provides a global file cache effectively that gives you caching at the edge replicated across multiple sites. So no matter where you are in the country or the world, all your files are at your fingertips in those geographical locations, which is important as we move into a distributed world and we have to have people 24/7, creating new buildings or working on bridges together. And have to have locks synced so that nobody, you're designing something on the first floor and the second floor that file never gets out of sync, right? So that's with Talon acquisition with global file cache. There's a lot of stuff we could talk about 8 hours, but we're not going to do that. Now we only have about 45 minutes left, so I'm going to just kind of move right through it and just focus in on our cloud volume story.
Yeah, just to clarify, Geoff, so we'll be focusing on the first pillar here, the high performance availability storage today in this talk, but I welcome any number of these in the next quarter. We have so much action here at NetApp and we want to bring it all forward. So with that, I'll click on the next slide, Geoff.
Yep. So in our point of view, there's going to be 5 cloud companies that matter. Of course, you have the 3 hyperscalers. You have VMware, which has the common hypervisor of moving that into the cloud, and each one of the cloud providers offers a VMware in the cloud experience for the lift and shift and the migration. And then you're going to have a storage and data fabric workplace productivity toolset company, and that's NetApp. So that's going to be across all clouds. We already have the data fabric. Now we're expanding that with a portfolio of workplace and cost optimization. So that is just so you kind of understand where we are heading as a strategy standpoint. We plan to be one of those 5 companies that matter in the cloud moving forward. Niraj, I'll turn this over to you.
Great, thanks, Geoff. So as Geoff already mentioned, what was the mindset when we were developing this partnership with Google and the different priority workloads we were looking at? I've been here for 20 months, and as I look back, when I joined here in 2018, we were still pretty early. I think we were in the private preview phase of the service. And I got a chance to work with Google and really experience the special partnership that we have. And it really is special in so many levels. And whether it is the engineering meetings that I'm in with them, or whether it is just the way we go to market together. And then what's happened is that we've had one thing in our mind, which is how can we help our customers with their needs as it relates to moving workloads to the public cloud. So fast forward to today, now we have multiple service offerings available in Google Cloud, multiple integration points for workloads, as Geoff already talked through. So here's just a quick summary, what was our mindset. And, we were really honored and humbled to receive the award 2 years in a row now for that Partner of the Year infrastructure category. And again, this is testament to all of the engineering efforts between both the companies. So, and just to structure the conversation from here till the demo, I have maybe 2 slides here just on, how we're thinking about tactically moving workloads to the cloud. And then we'll go into some solutions that we have. And then really, I just want to show you an architecture slide and then go right to the demo, because I removed like 5-6 slides just for that reason. I want to talk to you about the service with the service in front of us, and I want to take you for a spin. So with that in mind, let's hold off all of the questions around architecture, VMware, or SAP, because right after the demo, we'll do just that. So over here, you see that as you were talking to our customers over these years and refining what we thought were the adoption pathways for cloud or moving workloads to the cloud, it really boils down to these three things that you see here right in the middle of the screen, right? The migrate, the build, and the extract. And if you ask somebody at Google, they also have a similar vision here where they have the infrastructure modernization for the migrate category, they have the app modernization for the build category, and they have modern analytics for the extract category, right? And each of these, from our lens, has a problem that we saw in the data layer, and I'll talk more about what I mean by the data layer in the next slide. That's where we thought that we could come together and help our customers with the solutions that we bring. And each of these actually has a persona or a couple of personas tied to them. For example, in the first category, the migrate category, we have a bunch of admins or lines of business owners, or really folks that are part of maybe a cloud center or excellence team, and they're trying to move these traditional monolithic type applications to the public cloud like Google, and they're really held back due to the data layer, because they don't want to rewrite the data layer, they don't want to use object storage or newer types of databases there. They just want to get to the cloud to take advantage of other things like, for example, automatically scaling their demands and not being in the business of doing upgrades or just exiting the data center, for example, right? In the second category, the build category, that's where you're hearing technologies like Anthos and Kubernetes, and that aligns with that app modernization bucket, if you will. And the personas there are, again, DevOps engineers, developers that are looking to not really move fast, not be in that business of provisioning anything. They want to consume everything just like everything else in Google Cloud. And the storage should also follow suit like compute does right now. And again, in the third category, that's where we're seeing that all of the customers that had built their data pipelines on premises, now they're looking to move those into Google Cloud because of the clear differentiators that Google has in that space with their leading technologies and APIs with machine learning. So if you look at the right side of the graphic, what we really heard from our customers, what was resounding to us was that any solution to these problems should have these things in the common that you see on the right side as it relates to experience. And you hear that all the time, I get it, right? Look and feel, but I'm gonna show it to you, and I'm gonna take you through that experience right here in the demo and how we were thinking about it. And really, not just that it should be exactly like anything else in Google from a control plane standpoint, but also you should be able to flex your capacity up and down as you need to, and the economics should follow suit, all underscored with a really high degree of security and compliance. So this was our mindset when we were developing this partnership and the services with Google. Now I mentioned going back to the drawing board here, like what is really the problem in deploying enterprise applications in Google, right? Why is it so hard? So if you look on the left side, I have the anatomy of a typical 3-tier application here. On top, you have the application layer. You have a bunch of application servers running your code, right? And in the middleware layer, you again have a bunch of compute running your business logic. And over the years, we've seen that the enterprises have really taken it to that service-oriented architecture, the fine grain, if you will, right? And now they want to take that service-oriented architecture to microservices and even more fine grain type architectures. And it's really not that difficult today with technologies from Google like Anthos or Anthos Migrate. You can really get started there right now and make that decision whether you do it on-prem or you do it in the cloud, you do it in either of those ways, right? So you can get started quickly. But for the data layer, that's a different story, right? In the data layer, you again have two types of structures, if you will, the structured database and the unstructured file layer. And it's easy for you to take that structured database and again, run it on a Google managed database like Cloud SQL, or if you want to go to a NoSQL type databases, you can do that as well and not be in that business of deploying anything, managing anything, right? Or you can even choose to run the database on your own if you want even more control. For example, how you do backups and restores and all that. In the unstructured file layer, that's where NetApp and Google came together because there really wasn't a solid enterprise-grade option for our customers to seamlessly, without breaking the business processes or rewriting for object or newer databases, move those apps, right? And as this architecture grows over time, what you see at the bottom of the screen there, the POSIX interfaces, which is your NFS and SMBs, becomes really important to allow that sharing of files in that composite app ecosystem, right? And then obviously high availability is crucial. That if you're running things in production, you want to make sure they're always available. Performance becomes even more important as you grow your application and scale it. The experience for the users is always paramount, right? And then data protection, compliance, regulatory, having the data when you need it, and also copying it for those reasons. That's what we bring to this situation. So turn it back to you, Geoff, if you want to introduce some use cases on a high level, how we're thinking about it, how that aligns with some of our offerings.
Yeah, great, Niraj. I think one of the things that we're going to get into the demo, think about it in the context of the workloads. So we were recently certified for SAP scale-up workloads, things like HANA, which is a big in-memory database. And when you want to basically protect that database, that in-memory database, it needs to be flushed into disk. Our copy on write snapshot technology, et cetera, gives a tremendous performance improvement. And Dave Stump and Scott McCullough will be talking about that after we go through our cloud volumes. But also just Windows workloads, lift and shift. So in Google Cloud, we're the only SMB service available through the control panel. So you go to your Google Cloud control panel, you look at all your services, you'll see cloud volumes there. You click on the cloud volume and you can provision a Windows file share in seconds. And that allows you then to scale it up, scale it down, change your performance tiers, et cetera, without having to manage a Windows server to do that and attach all the persistent disk. And in the meantime, you'll save 70%. So that's a great win for us all the time. General purpose NAS, where you're just basically need a file share. 68% of enterprise applications need shared file storage. SAP, of course, but then also a lot of the other applications that you're moving in the cloud. So a very good solution for that. The Google Cloud VMware engine that we just spoke about, which is GCVE, they're launching and have some really great use cases of being able to snap mirror from on-prem, move those VMs into the cloud and run them there. And then hybrid cloud workplaces such as DR and backup in the cloud. Machine analytics, where you're running a workload in a data center and you want to move a subset of that data into the cloud for things like ML, AI, process that, and then basically delete those cloud volumes in the cloud and recapture that data back in your data center. So there's all this type of data movement, things like that we can do with our cloud volumes ONTAP, which brings that enterprise grade ONTAP and now delivers it across the cloud.
Hey, Jeffrey.
So, yes.
So the SAP HANA certification, is that to a file share when they dump the HANA in-memory database, or is that through a structured?
Yeah, I can take that, Geoff. So in SAP, we have multiple use cases, right? So the shared files is one, but the certification that we have is for actually running HANA in a scale-up fashion. So data and log on CVS.
Yeah, so that is data and log files running on the CVS, NetApp, which is a NetApp file.
Exactly, and we have an hour talk right after this one just on that. And then I also have an architecture slide on each of these that we can have in front of us when we discuss a bit more after the demos.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Anything else here, Geoff? Or?
No, that's it. You got it, Niraj.
All right, I think you got this to introduce our services, some of the services that we have here, Geoff. I know you've only just joined us, but I'd love to hear your perspective. And
Sure. So both are cloud volumes. So you'll hear cloud volumes, which is our strategy for bringing this data fabric into multiple clouds. But in GCP specifically, we're offering Cloud Volume Service. Now, this is the fully managed service backed with a 99.9% SLA. It is available in the Google console from the command line for API calls. It gives you the ability to create volumes as small as 1 terabyte. We have different performance tiers, which Niraj will walk through. But I like to say you can get started with NetApp now for $4 a day, right? Less than a Frappuccino at Starbucks. Because you're paying only for the volume that you're provisioning, but you're getting all the enterprise capabilities inside of it. So that's our Cloud Volume Service, fully managed service. It is offered with an SLA. You spin it up in GCP. It scales up and down dynamically, and we'll show more of that. But the other product is Cloud Volumes ONTAP. Now, Cloud Volumes ONTAP, or CVO, is effectively our ONTAP delivered as a virtual appliance inside of your cloud of choice. And this is a self-managed service. So you can go and point it at any region that you want to and spin it up. It's a dedicated, it's not multi-tenant, it's dedicated for you. And it will automatically do things such as tiering data between persistent disk or SSDs and into object storage. It does all the data compaction, data deduplication. It does snap mirror, all of the things that you get, the dials and the knobs and dials that you get with your storage on-prem, your NetApp storage on-prem. Now we bring that into Cloud Volumes ONTAP that's available as a self-managed. We have a cloud management control plane, if you will, called Cloud Manager. Literally, you can take an icon representing your cloud volumes in whichever region it is and drag and drop it, and it'll replicate it no matter which cloud it is. So it's a great multi-cloud control plane. Very excited about that. So there's two different services. One is the easy button for storage, right? That's CVS, boom, now you've got your volume. It reduces the amount of bells and whistles and knobs and buttons that you can kind of do with it, but it's completely managed by NetApp and GCP and supported by NetApp and GCP. And then you, of course, have Cloud Volumes ONTAP.
So Jeffrey, Cloud Volume ONTAP has pretty much a fully supported ONTAP environment from data management, data services. Does Cloud Volume Service support like data compression, deduplication, snap mirrors, that sort of copy on write snapshots?
Yeah, we do have we basically thin provision snapshots, or we don't refer to it as copy on write snapshots because 40% of the customers that we're gaining in the cloud are not NetApp customers. There are people who want a volume where you do a snapshot. And so I won't say we've dumbed it down, but we've made it simple to activate and consume without having to be an ONTAP administrator. So in CVS, as you'll see, it's really easy. And by making it easy, we've abstracted away some of those components underneath. But what you just said, all of those features are inside of our Cloud Volume Service. So you're getting all those, you're getting all the data protection and data resilience, but it's all transparent to you. You're effectively provisioning a volume, selecting the performance tier for that volume, selecting the size for that volume, and then making it available. And once Niraj walks through that, you'll see. The short answer is yes, it's both, but we don't expose all the features in CVS.
Yeah, and you'll see that when I take you to the demo, why we did that. The model is designed such that you pay for the capacity that you use, gigabyte per month, right? So and we give you an SLA for that, both throughputs and capacity, right? So again,
I'm sorry, before you begin, I believe on one of the previous slides, you listed a data lake as a really good use case. Can you explain why using a NetApp solution would be better than using the vendor's proprietary object storage?
Yeah. So great question, Nate. So if you go back to that slide, it's really discussing how the enterprises have migrated. It's not saying that's a specific NetApp use case. We do have some people using it for data lakes, but you're right. There's a lot of vendors that have their own proprietary data stores, and we're not trying to say NetApp as a one-size-fits-all for a data lake. It is something that customers use us for, but it's not a lead with use case. These are the slide that I just walked through are our primary use cases.
Yeah, and again, Nate, I think it was Nate, right? So think about it as a data pipeline, right? Lake is just one stop in that station, right? In that pipeline, right? So you have data warehousing, data lakes, and you have applications and data is moving around. So we have a place in that pipeline. If you have a requirement for your application to have that high performance NFS interfaces, then that's what we provide. But eventually we are not the data lake. You're right. So,
and then we have Anthos, and just to wrap up, that's Anthos with GKE, which is taking our Trident drivers and all of our technology and making that available inside of Google Anthos as a managed Kubernetes environment, bringing all the enterprise-grade storage tiers to a multi-cloud hybrid environment where you can run it in your data center or in a cloud provider's data center and still get those benefits in a dedicated instance fashion. So we have customers that use this. Interesting, you're probably very familiar with Ceph. We've had a company that said, look, I was trying to roll my own Ceph in a cloud, was for file services. It was just too complex. This is the easiest way to kind of get started. And it's about reliability and pricing, because at the end of the day, in the future, customers are going, I say customers or DevOps are going to care about having data available for processing and probably couldn't care less about the underneath of that volume, what's going on. Now we do as a storage vendor, but we need to make it easy. And you know, it has to be easy to consume and still offer great performance. And so I think Prowler.io was very pleased with us. That's why they did this.
I think that's sorry, trying to get the next slide. All right, here we go.
Cool.
Are you good, Geoff?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you, Niraj.
Thank you for that overview, Geoff. So here we go. So from here on out, we're going to focus on a flagship offering, the Cloud Volume Service architecture here that I have. So what I want to do is I want to explain what we were thinking when we're designing this service, and then I have one more slide that will talk about the benchmarks, and then we'll go right into the console after that, and then look at all this.
Before you get there, you mentioned the Anthos. Is it a Cloud Volume Service there, or Cloud Volume on tap there in Anthos?
In that third category of use case where you saw Anthos with our HCI, right?
That's the CDO. It would be the on tap.
So it's CVO. Okay, thanks.
Correct. Any other questions before we take a closer look at Cloud Volumes? All right, so what is this? Who's using it, right? So this is Cloud Volumes is a fully managed NFS and SMB file services offering in Google Cloud, right? And it is open to all, meaning that you can get started today, right here, right now. You don't have to get whitelisted, or you don't have to get onboarded or any of that, right? The way it's designed is that if you are a Google customer, Google user, you can log into your Google account, which we'll do right now, and then you can consume it from that same navigation menu where you have all of the other Google services, right? So open to all. And then the second key thing to note here is that it's a regional service. This is where we differentiate from everything else that's out there, right? In that we connect to a Google region. So we are by default highly available in the region, and you can deploy applications in all of the zones in that region and connect to us without having to worry about us going down, right? So when the zone goes down, I mean. And the framework that we use here is called the private service access, which is a very highly robust and secure technology from Google, also used by some of the other Google native technologies like Cloud SQL. And then moving to the graphic that I have here, you see on the top we have the control plane, and on the bottom we have the data plane. So on the control plane on the top, you can access the service using the console, API, CLI, and it's also embedded with cloud monitoring, previously Stackdriver, from a monitoring standpoint. And then one of the things that our customers love about this is that even from a billing and support standpoint, it is completely seamless for a Google user. Google takes first call for support, and even the way it's metered is that you get a single bill from Google with us as a line item when you consume it. And then looking at the bottom, the control plane, again, on the right side, you have the producer project and the NetApp VPC. And on the left side, you have your consumer project where you have your application resources running and your VPC. And then the way we make that connection is using a technology called VPC peering. And really, we spend so much time, there's so much automation going on here so that you as a user or a developer or an SRE or a DevOps engineer really don't have to focus on being a networking expert for Google. You literally just consume it in about a matter of 4 or 5 minutes for the very first volume that you create. All this automatically gets set up for the subsequent volumes to then be able to get spun up even more quicker, like 8 or 9 seconds, right? So that was the idea here, to give our customers something that is automated, highly secure, robust, and also allows them to focus on higher level tasks, not the mundane tasks of implementing things. And if you're familiar with the Google world, shared VPC support is something that our customers were asking, and this reminds me of just how quickly we are innovating here, and how quickly we are taking the requirements in the field and able to add it in our iterations. And we announced the support for shared VPC at beta last year, more than a year ago. And what that does is lets you deploy the topology that 90% of users in Google are deploying. Essentially, looking again at the bottom architecture, you don't have to peer us with every single project, right? If you did share VPC, you can peer us with just a host project, and then all of the service projects in that shared VPC can access us without you having to peer so many times. And it just gives you a nice way to manage and organize your operations, whether it's networking or storage or projects for different environments like dev tests, all that. And then again, from a security standpoint, we have roles built into Google IAM. So you see on the top that authentication is through Cloud IAM. So this is the level of work and innovation that we have done. And I'll pause here to see if there's any questions on the technical architecture or so far.
So I've got a real quick question here. A little bit earlier, you guys said that it doesn't, most of your customers are not, in fact, current NetApp customers when it comes to like the CVA, or not CVA, CVS and Cloud on Tap. Is there a reason for that, or what does the integration look like with the existing on tap investment that people might have made?
I'm happy to take that. So the cloud, we have a lot of NetApp customers that are using CVO because they get the instant ability to effectively extend their data center into their cloud provider of choice. So for CVO, the majority of customers probably are, I don't have the exact breakout, but the majority of customers would be existing NetApp customers. And for CVS, it's right there in the Google control plane. So it's literally just go down to the bottom of the control panel and click a button and you can provision a volume. So you don't have to be a pre-existing NetApp customer to use that. And that's where we're getting a lot of uptake with new DevOps centric customers that are new to, taking and building a cloud platform. They need some shared storage for running their web server or whatever. And that's how they're accessing it. But for CVO, I would say the majority are, but we are seeing some use cases now with CVO where we are getting some net new customers that just need to have resilient enterprise grade storage in the cloud. And now you don't have to go through a complicated, data center footprint install, et cetera. You go to the marketplace, you click, and you can deploy it within 5 minutes for your CVO. So there's two options, and we're getting new customers and new logos in both.
So I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but CVS and CVO and the regular NetApp solutions on-prem, they all interact across this one data fabric? I mean, can you snap mirror from CVS to CVO or snap mirror from CVS to, an on-prem
That's
solution?
a great question, and I would say everything is a work in progress. Right now, NetApp on-prem and CVO can speak with each other. CVO doesn't snap into CVS, but CVO snaps to CVO. NetApp snaps to CVO in whatever cloud. So CVO is your universal layer, and CVS, as we started and launched that, and just went GA in November. So it's a relatively new service, and we'll be adding more features. And I can't speak to the roadmap, but I would say that feature is not an unreasonable feature that the product team is looking at.
Again, we want to get out of that mindset of bringing the tool, just leading with the tool, right? What is the problem that we're trying to solve in the cloud? When we were building this ecosystem of our offering, we wanted to allow you to start anywhere, really. So if you feel like you want more freedom and you want more responsibility, sure, go ahead and use CVO. You have the skill set, NetApp skill set already on premises, bring them and use them, and it's a completely different architecture, right? We're running it on Google IaaS versus this is a premium offering right here, which allows you to start quickly without having to worry about a false start, gives you greater productivity, and really sets you up for modern use cases and avenues down the road and reduce your time to innovation. So it's up to you if you want to use CVO, and we'll help you. But I really don't see a scenario where you want to snap mirror from CVS to CVO. Again, we will be adding snap mirror tech capabilities in CVS. We already have it for CVO. But we'll work with you on what problem you're trying to solve, and we'll give you a solution for that, all right? Okay. So last slide here before I go into the demo. This is where rubber meets the road. So I want to talk about just one slide here, and I put the links here. We have an engineer in our team by the name Chad, the best of the best that I've ever seen. He's written a couple of blogs here, and he has a webinar on there's only two knobs, right? Performance and capacity, and how you can tune them. And really what I want to do is to give you the upper limit here. So for NFS and scale out, you're looking at about 400,000 IOPS. This is multi-instance, right? And from a throughput standpoint, you're looking at about 4 gigs of throughput. And that is what we bring today. And we're working with Google. They're always optimizing their SDN. We're always learning. We're always documenting how we're doing the testing in these links. And really what we're seeing is amazing, just about.
So this is CVS, not CVO?
Correct, this is CVS right here. This is CVS, yes.
All right, thanks.
I might be ignorant or might have missed something. CVS, CVO, the acronyms are?
Cloud Volume Service, which is a managed service. And CVO is a self-managed VM called Cloud Volumes on Tap. It's effectively a VM that you can go spin up wherever you want to spin it up.
Okay, so
is a
ONTAP versus the service.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. CVS is a co-engineered with Google service that's available in their control plane, fully managed, uptime 99.9%. And it abstracts all the complexities of otherwise you would have to go marketplace to spin a CVO, pick the capacity, how much persistent disk, et cetera, and start doing all the stuff. We just integrated all the easy button in CVS. So CVS is get started in 8 seconds and you've got your volume provision.
Yeah, I understood the difference. It's just that I hadn't picked up on the acronym.
Oh, the acronym. Yeah. CVS is the service and CVO is the VM.
All right, so we're going to be looking at how you use these knobs and how this works, right? So with that, let me introduce the demo section that I'm going to go into next here. So obviously we'll go into the console and we'll, there I'll talk about the value and benefits that I didn't cover yet. So we'll do that as we go along. The volume creation for SMB. If the demo gods are on my side, SMB, my Windows RDP is a bit flaky today, but if not, definitely NFS. And that's where I can show you real time, with real FIO command running in performance that we can all see together, how you turn those knobs and how you can achieve what you're trying to do. And then that's the second item here, basically. And then we'll see something even more fun after that in the third one, which is where we differentiate than anybody else out there, right? Call it volume shaping, dynamic changes, what have you. But really what it comes down to is you saving costs. If you have that bursty, spiky workload, and if that's one of your strategic reasons to move workloads to cloud, then that's where you can, that is the capability. Automated with our APIs, you can literally save costs on an hourly, daily, weekly, monthly basis, and that quickly adds up. So what I'll do now is I'll come out of this full screen mode, and I'm gonna go into the Google console where I've already logged in. Bear with me a second. Move my Zoom bar here.
So going back to the benchmarks, you don't have anything that would show the types of IO activity are available from the Cloud Volume ONTAP versus the Cloud Volume service. I mean, are these numbers similar to what's available on CVO or
Yeah, good question. So we have a slide, you can compare the two. They're not similar right now because CVO is running on persistent disk on top of Google IaaS, and it's single node right now. But if you speaking of CVO in general, we just broke the 500,000 numbers on a different provider, right? So CVO has the capability, we're building it in Google. CVO right now is single node. So to answer your earlier question, we use FIO, VD Bench. You can still use those for either or. We'll be using FIO here.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. So here we are logged into the Google Cloud Console, and I'm in the NCV demo project, as you see here. And if you click on the navigation menu, the hamburger menu, as Googlers call it, right? So this is where we live. We live right here in this menu at the bottom. And we were the first ones here, right? You see Cloud Volumes right here. I got it pinned to my home section. Clicking on volumes brings you into the dashboard, which I've already pinned here. So I'm going to do that next. Show you the transition. We're not going and deploying any scripts. We're not going to the marketplace and running deployment manager and waiting for it to complete. It's truly integrated. This is what I mean by experience, right? You're a Google user, you're a developer, you're an SRE. This is what you need. You're trying to deploy, you're trying to make a deployment happen in Google. You can use APIs. So everything that I do in the demo here today, all of that can be done with API and Terraform support that we have. So just to give you some better view here, what I'll do is I'll take out the ID, lifecycle, and state just to give you a clean view. So now you can see that I have some volumes listed here. They're predominantly in Central region. I guess I like that region more than the others, but you got East 4, West 2. So you have 6 regions, which we'll look at when I click create. And then you can see the most relevant information you need to see, right? NFS, SMB, the size. And on the left, you have the snapshots tab, the AD tab, which we'll cover in our SMB demo. And then this tab right here, which doesn't work right now because that's the feature that we're coming out with in about a month. And we're super excited about that, but I cannot demo that today yet. So stay tuned on that. And with that, what I'll do next is go click create. And this is where we can talk about the different service levels and what, really in my mind, we require like 3 or 4 fields of input from you, and think about what you had to do to provision a volume today in a traditional or classical way, right? So it really amazes me every day when I come in here and I try to create a volume. So I'll give it a friendly name, right? We all need that. We'll call it Cloud Field Day, SMB. And we'll pick our central region, because that's where I have my Active Directory server. So SMB volumes requires an Active Directory domain controller in your same region and same project, okay? So if, for example, if you were to create this volume in a different region, you need an AD domain controller in that region as well. That's what I mean. The name is automatically picked for you. You can change it if you want to give it your own name. Just make sure it's unique across the project. And for our SMB demo, I think I had some notes here. I wanted to do this in a particular way. So what I'll do is, I want to do a premium 5 terabyte. So I'll do premium, and I will skip the snapshot, because what that means here is that if I wanted to create this volume from an existing volume, another volume's copy, and explain where that comes in handy, and I can do that here. We're not doing that here. We're creating a brand new volume altogether. So I'll give it 5 terabytes, as we call it. And I will choose SMB. So you can see right here, we have NFS v3, NFS v4, and SMB available today. And as Geoff mentioned, we are the only managed service provider for SMB in Google Cloud. The other option is for you to do it yourself. And again, that is a barrier already, in so many ways for you to then still pay that fixed cost again all over in the cloud. So we are the only SMB offering in Google Cloud, and the performance is just as I showed you earlier, 400,000 IOPS. Now I talked about shared VPC. This project right here is a standalone project. So we're not doing shared VPC here. I don't have a host and service project here. That's fine. And the network, this is the old VPC, right? This is the VPC where you have your servers and your applications and your resources running. In my case, that VPC is NCV-VPC. So I'll choose that. And you saw that little pop up. So that's where, because it already knows this is this for this project, we've already done the plumbing. It's only a one-time set it and forget it enablement flow that we do for the very first volume. Since we've already done that, you don't have to open the G-Cloud command and populate those 3 commands. That's super easy still, right? So we pick that, and then next what we'll do is show you the snapshot policy. So not only do we allow you to take snapshots on demand from the top left here, but we understand that you don't want to do that before every upgrade or every change or every situation that you're worried about, right? So you want an easy way to automate that as well. So that's what we give you here. We allow you to automate snapshots hourly, daily, weekly basis, predefined attention and schedule. You can plug in what suits your needs, and we won't do that here in this case. And let me make sure before I click save if there's any questions on SMB volume creation. All right, what you see here.
I just have a quick question. You had mentioned there was a requirement for a domain controller to be in the same region.
Correct.
How about if there was a disruption, just out of curiosity?
Disruption in domain controllers?
Yeah.
You'll have when you deploy AD, you'll not deploy a single point of failure, right? So you'll have multiple controllers in that domain.
Right.
And then you also have Google Manage AD, so you can let Google manage that whole thing. We're working on an integration with Google Manage AD right now. We don't support it right now, but once you have that, then you don't have to go to Compute Engine and like I have my domain controller here. To your point, single domain controller, right? Single point of failure. But that's not a production deployment here, right? So, but what we do is that if I go to AD real quick before I click create, so you understand what is happening when I click create, is that it's checking for this connection right here. Actually I can click on edit and show you what that form looks like before you save it, right? So let's walk through this here. So you need an account with administrator type privileges, and obviously administrator works always, right? So we're plugging the password, pick the domain name of that domain controller that I have running, give it the DNS. In my case, it's the same. This name right here, the NetBIOS name, is what gets created as a computer object in AD. And then as you see right here, as I mentioned, one connection can only be configured for a single region.
That's fine. Just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Good question. You actually, you corrected me. I should have gone here first before I click create. So thank you. So I'm going to click create now, or save rather. And let's see if my RDP session to my my Windows VM is working. And once again, so you saw in about 5 seconds that volume, 1 terabyte is the minimum size, right? Got created and it's ready for us to use. So if I look at it up here, there it is, CFD SMB. And once it gets created, you can see that that same NetBIOS name was used, SMB server. It'll add a 4-digit code after that. And then right here, you can see how you can mount this to your Windows instances. And I have one up here running, and I'm going to pull it up right now. I'm going to copy this guy right here. And it's just so simple. Comes up. Are you still there? There it is. So part of the same domain. I'm going to go to my computer. And I'm going to have another volume already mounted just for some testing that I was doing. Click on this guy right here, map network drive. It doesn't work inside, so paste. Yeah, did it copy it? We didn't copy it. Let's try that one more time.
How easy is it to automate this through an API for automated user setup in a deployment?
Very easy. We have Terraforms that can be used to do the SMB volume creation and also the AD connection. So you can use Terraforms that we have available today to do all of that. So it looks like my sessions may have been timing out. So let me just open up these windows and kind of try it one more time. But you get the idea, right? So if I was to right click on that map and network drive, then I would just end up with a volume like this. So actually, let's just look at this one right here, right? Since I have a backup one here already mounted. So if I go into this one, no, there's a file that I copied that I had. But basically, let's make another copy. Okay, so you see that I'm copying a file from local downloads to a cloud volume that I created previously. I'll show that to you here. But what I want to do next is show you, if I were to go back to my volume page and take a snapshot, then what kind of VSS integration that we have, right? So while that's being done, I'll go back here, go to volumes, and I believe the volume in question now is this one right here. Is probably that guy, yeah, that one right there. Okay, so we're gonna snap this guy, and let's do that. So simple. Just click on this right here. Click on snapshot, and give it a friendly name. Click create. So once that snapshot is done, it takes really, just a few seconds, right? Let's go back to our page. And let's say that somehow some kind of user error happened or some kind of unforeseen event that occurred that I lost my files, right? So let's say we delete these two. And now I'm in a pickle, right? So what do? I don't have a backup. But the nice thing is that if that snapshot just worked, then if I was to right click here and go to restore previous versions, of course, this won't show now. So Goofy, Brave, Albertani. Okay, let's see. Did I get my volumes mixed up? I don't think so. So forgive me, SMB today has been, I've been running some issues with SMB today, just in terms of my sessions and RDP. But that's the idea. It's all integrated right there. I have a demo on YouTube that Nick Howell and I recorded, and it's available. It shows you exactly that, right? You can go there right now on our landing page and see exactly how easy it is to create the volume, which we did, create a snapshot, which we did, and then use previous version to recover a file just like that. So what we'll do now is we will go and walk through the NFS volume creation just for the interest of time. And then I hope that we can fire up those NFS sessions and really look at that dynamic volume changes. So I'm going to now click on create, and we're on time. Wow, time does fly. So let's do the NFS one right here. We'll call it CFD NFS. So for NFS, it's pretty similar workflow with some changes on how you expose your the volume to your clients. So I'm going to pick central one again. In this case, I want to pick an extreme volume, and I want to give it 1 terabyte because I want to show you how I scale that. So I'll give it the minimum size, 1 terabyte, and the maximum is 100. And we'll choose NFS v3. And here, once again, we will pick our VPC. And then the difference that here is that you have to add the export policy, right? That makes sense. You want to be able to read and write to this volume from a Linux instance. So we'll do right for right now. We'll just add, we'll open it up to all my instances. There we go. Read and write. And then my clients happen to be V3 right now. So I'll pick V3. And then we'll click save. So just in a few seconds, you have an NFS volume created. So I wanna pause here and see what you guys think about what you saw so far. I know there's some NetApp experts here, and how did we do? Is this amazing or what?
I'm really looking forward to that replication. When is that happening?
This one? All right. This is coming. I'm not allowed to talk about it a lot yet, but as I mentioned, in about a month or so, you'll see that we'll be making some announcements on replication. And again, this is not going to be from on-prem into cloud. It's going to be more from a cloud region to another cloud region, right? And so yeah, that's how much I can get into at this point.
So let's talk a little bit about the integration with GVE, Google Cloud, VMware Engine. As I'm looking at these services, and one of the primary challenges is extending storage. You know, if I'm only limited to HCI, the vSAN that comes with it, I'm easily look at these types of solutions. What are some of the supported use cases? Is this mainly for extending for data volumes and running specific types of workloads? Or are we talking about native VMware data stores, VMFS file systems running on top of these cloud-based filers?
This is Geoff. Yes, the answer is yes, we can do both. With our Cloud Volume Service, that is focused on providing the shared file storage. With Cloud Volumes ONTAP, we can be a data store for the VMDKs. So you can literally snap mirror a virtual machine from your data center into a Cloud Volumes ONTAP running in any of Google's regions, and that has GCVE, and then launch the VM on CVO storage. And if it's something that is like an RDBMS, and you really want to promote that, and within vSphere, you can move that over to the NVMe storage that's within the GCVE hyperscale infrastructure. So it gives you a lot of flexibility with Cloud Volumes ONTAP. Of course, Cloud Volume Service, we're building out these service capabilities because we have to integrate that into Google's portal. So that's a lot of work. It's a co-engineered solution. But with CVO, you run it and you get a lot of those capabilities out of the box. So yes, we can support both shared file storage with CVS and with CVO, but we can also be the VM backing data store with CVO.
So essentially, the first category of use cases is right here, just like Compute Engine, right? If you were talking to Google, if you're moving applications to Google Cloud, we're giving you choices. Google's giving you choices to run them on Compute Engine, or if you're a VMware shop, you want to bring in existing tooling and existing skill set for VMware, same thing, right? In fact, one of the coolest things that we demoed about 2 months ago is that same NetApp Cloud Volume can be mounted, same volume, on a VMware VM and a GCE VM. So how cool is that, right? You can take a NetApp Cloud Volume, and you can mount it across private clouds within Google. So that's how simple, seamless, and powerful this service is designed. You can do that just like that. And we actually did a webinar with Google 2 months ago showing that. So that's the first one right here, guest file shares, NFS and SMB within the OS. And again, if you want that high-end performance, then use CVS. If you're looking at more NetApp skill sets and on-prem NetApp storage, SnapMirror, then if I click next, that's this use case right here, data source, as well as DR as well, which is right here. So we support all of those use cases for VMware. And the key thing to note that is that they just announced general availability. GCVE just came out in May. And that same day, we announced our support for GCVE. So just to make a note of how quickly we're also innovating here at NetApp, we're keeping up with the cloud, and we've also got our own offerings that are coming to help meet our customers where they are right now from their point of view, like desktops and like compliance and cost savings and all of that, right? So thank you, Pete, for asking that question. And we covered VMware here. What I'll do is now, since we have only a few minutes left, I'll go back to the SAP slide here and kind of talk about this as an example and for NFS Linux-based applications. And I know the next session, Scott and Dave will be taking you guys through much more detail here on all of the value that we bring and how this is one of the most important workloads for our customers, for Google, for us at NetApp. And they'll take you through the whole detail on that. What I want to do here is just to give you a view here of it could be any application running NFS and Linux, and how if you have multi-zone deployments, then we are in the center right there. As I mentioned earlier, we're a regional service. So you don't have to go to every region and have like a volume, right? You can have that volume for your shared files needs on us, which is already regionally attached. And really saves you a lot of operational complexity and overhead, right? So this is an example for Linux, and then for Windows, again, this Windows right here is a example slide of what a typical Windows architecture looks like, and what industry is not using Windows in their environment, right? Financials, healthcare, oil and gas, you name it. They have so many custom applications built using Windows technologies for 3 tiers, for the web layer, for middleware. And then what we're seeing is that there's a real gap right now in Google Cloud where they don't have that high-end SMB capability in Google. So that's what we bring. But then this also becomes the foundation for our other technologies in the user space, like Global File Cache or VDI using Itopia, which is a Google partner, or even NetApp's VDI, which is NetApp's virtual desktop service. You can use SMB volumes for user profiles there as well.
So, yes, right. So I guess my question is, how is the data protected across users? So, I mean, I'm a user, I have my own Google volume service volume, and there's another guy over here, he's another user also using the service. How is the data protected between those two and not necessarily accessible between those two? I mean, is it encrypted with something associated with the user, or what?
So everything within the Google Cloud address is encrypted, and you would just use your standard Windows NTFS permissions and the way you would do it for just your regular SMB shares, right? So we'll let you handle that. And you can have multiple volumes for different users, or how you want to carve it up, but there's nothing extra that's needed or knobs that you can turn on our side. It's on the OS level that you can control all that. Yeah.
Just on a similar part of this topic, backups. Is there an integrated backup service that comes along with this for me to move data out of the cloud, I suspect was the best probably way to put it?
Thank you, because I wanted to bring backup in that previous question and I didn't, so thank you for bringing that up now. You saw my volume dashboard, you saw the page for rep, you saw snapshots and replication. Right there, you're gonna see backup coming very soon, essentially with the catalog to take the data in a cloud volumes and store it on GCS, check the box multi-regional, and now you're good to go, right? So that's coming, we have it available. It is based on some of the technology that we've had for a while. So we are working on exposing that to our Google product suite. Don't have a time frame on that yet, but if I was to guess, I would say like maybe by end of this calendar year, we'll give you. But for now, you can use third-party tools. You can use, you can even use our Cloud Sync technology and have the data not just in one region, but also another region synchronized. Or you can synchronize it directly to Google Cloud Storage and then check that box is stored multi-regionally. So those are the options for backup.
And we have a SaaS platform called Cloud Sync that you can move between different destinations, different clouds, object storage to file back and forth. So we see that need a lot. And so we created a SaaS platform for that.
So as a teaser to the next video, which is going to go into SAP, I want to dig into HANA replication, et cetera, because SAP HANA breaks most enterprises' strategies for data protection and DR for HANA. So that's just, you don't have to answer it now. It's just a teaser going into the next video.
So great question.
How are we doing on time, Stephen? Do we have more time to cover a GKE use case? And that's really the last slide here, or?
Yeah, I think
sorry about that.
Go
ahead.
I'm sorry?
Sorry about that. You caught me by surprise. Yeah, that's kind of up to NetApp. and the second half presenters. Do they have time to go through this?
Again, there's so much going on in NetApp. Each of these one slide use cases, we can spend an hour on each, right? We got so much momentum and so much capability. Just to give you a real quick overview, again, your data problems are data problems, right? They don't just go away if you're containerizing or running it on GCE, GCVE, or GKE, right? You still have to worry about how quickly you're provisioning, where you're wasting, and that value chain from dev stage to prod. So I'll just leave it at that for now, and I'll let Geoff summarize why we're the easy button, what we set out to achieve when we were building this partnership and products with Google, and I think we certainly did that. So with that, Geoff, do you want to close it out?
Yeah, I mean, we really are trying to make a very flexible way for consumption. As we've mentioned, there's CVS, which is literally the easy button for a newbie that just got their account started, and they can go spin up a volume, and it's pretty straightforward, no knowledge of NetApp required, to the expert storage admin that wants to have complete control of basically replicate their on-prem environment into the cloud, and for that, Cloud Volumes ONTAP is a great solution. So we've tried to give the customers offer, we give them options and let them choose which is best for them. But we want to make it also easy across the life cycle. So for the new developers all the way to the experts, administrators, simplifying the line of business. And as Niraj said, we're just getting started. I mean, we're across all three clouds. We are acquiring company. We've acquired Spot. That acquisition just closed. That's bringing some new compute-centric capabilities to the cloud. So Stephen, I hope in our next Cloud Field Day, we'll be able to talk about what we're doing with Spot and, saving customers 90% in their cloud bill. I think they would care a lot about that. And as Raj mentioned, there's, it's easy to get started, whether you're CLI, your API, you're in the console itself. We have a lot of tools that we weren't able to walk through that. And then ultimately now to turn it over to Dave Stump and Scott McCullough, we've taken this platform, this data fabric, and now taken it to run the ultimate of enterprise workloads, if you will, with SAP. And with that, I will turn this over to Dave and Scott, and you can take it up the stack to the very top with SAP. Thank you all, and look forward to any questions there.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Niraj. Thank you, Geoff. Thank you for the warm intro. I'm going to bring up my PowerPoint here. Where did it go? How about I just bring up the desktop?
All right, while he's bringing that up, I'll just remind y'all that we've got this Discord channel going. So if you look on the Twitter with the CFD8 hashtag, you can figure out where to see that. And he's got some more information about some of these Cloud Volumes topics that we've just discussed. Looks like the slides are up now. Prime Image, are you guys ready for them to start?
I am ready.
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. So hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting us to the Cloud Field Day. This is a great opportunity to share with you some of the things. I am Dave Stump. I am responsible for the global go-to-market at NetApp across all of our pathways, which we're focusing on cloud today. And how do we work with our clients on adopting or utilizing or leveraging our technology capabilities, tool sets in relationship to SAP workloads, okay? The most popular SAP workload right now is SAP Hana, as Keith has mentioned, and we'll talk a little bit about those type of things, and hopefully we'll address your question, Keith. If we do not, during my discussion, we definitely will with Scott. I've been in the SAP ecosystem as an architect, as a project manager, as an implementer, at a systems integrator, and pretty much in the vendor aspect relationships, whether it was IBM, Clark's Consulting, NetApp included. I'm going to turn it over to Scott to introduce himself really quickly. Scott, if you're not on mute.
Sure. My name's Scott McCullough. I'm an SAP solutions architect for NetApp. Dave has a little bit more years on me. So I started back in 1998 with SAP, with a global manufacturing company. So 11 years of basis there, and I'll start 11 years in September, helping customers and partners light up SAP on NetApp.
So first question I'd like to ask you, did you know that who helps SAP run SAP internally, not only their own systems, but their clouds and their development on those clouds. SAP Cloud Platform, Business by Design, it's NetApp, right? So we've had 20 years of a partnership with co-innovation. We've have over 125 and growing, depends on the year and how much they're leveraging our capabilities, our thin provisioning and our flex clone and rapid provisioning capabilities on where that petabyte goes up to 150, goes down to 110, whatever, but right around 125 petabytes. We're a founding member of the COIL Co-Innovation Lab. And if you look at the bottom, I really just wanted to highlight for this conversation, we're in 12 SAP Hana Enterprise Cloud locations. They built their HANA Enterprise Cloud utilizing SAP technologies. And they also have their SAP Cloud, for the platform as a service, running on NetApp. So we wanted to focus in on what are SAP clients and what is our point of view of what we see from our clients, as Scott and I and the rest of the team go out and talk to clients about what they're trying to get done with SAP. And almost every one of them is looking at this opportunity for digital transformation. If they're looking at S4 HANA or Suite on HANA, BW on HANA, or any type of workloads with HANA as an underpinning, they're looking at it as an opportunity to either retool internally or looking to leverage the cloud for that faster deployment, the cost reduction. As Niraj said earlier, Niraj and Geoff, the easy button, right? So I want to get to a platform as a service. Scott utilizes it, and he tells me every day how great. He's like, if I had this stuff, I'd probably still be doing operations. So don't make a face, Scott. You like the operations. So, but the challenges of doing this in the cloud, right? That's why we have Spot. That's why we're looking at managing infrastructure, right? Because you can get scope creep, right? Cloud crawl, you start getting these surprise bills on your workloads. I think Scott ran into this one time when he forgot to turn down his demo environment. He got a bill and he had to come to me and ask me, hey man, I won't let it happen again. But anyway, so the downtime, right? So there's sometimes downtime, right? With the high availability aspects that everybody's looking for, specifically around data, because compute is light, data is heavy, right? Data you have to manage and you have to be able to have it available. Hybrid integration, they're looking to that, but I see more and more where they're doing cloud only, right? So as Scott will tell you when he's doing his demonstration, he spends probably 24 hours a day working with clients on how they're going to get onto the different cloud offerings that we have available. So how do we address that? So I'm going to try to get rid of this. Okay. So what if your SAP projects could get to the cloud, in that migration without headaches? So Geoff brought up several times, right? Using SnapMirror, block-based replication into CVO, right? Use that as a jump server to get into CVS because you can't get SnapMirror there just yet. You could use Cloud Sync and LAN. The idea is it's so easy to provision and manage these applications and the data stores when you're using CVS and CVO. CVS is even more platform as a service because you set it and forget it. Niraj was showing you how you just have two dials, right? You have a capacity dial and you have a throughput dial. And you adjust those dials to the specific needs of a workload or the workload within a workload. And what I mean by that is, am I running finance? Am I running sales and distribution? Am I running warehouse management, et cetera? So, and also what we show you with those, and Scott will show you a use case that we like to, in SAP, call system refresh. And those system refreshes are instrumental in how do I implement and deploy and test and deploy SAP applications. So when I first got into implementing SAP, one of the higher level executives at the project came up to me and said, Dave, it's all about the testing, stupid. So it's all about the testing. It's still about the testing. And then the second piece is, how do I train? Because if I don't train my people properly, they're not going to use the system properly. And I'll end up with that's where I get junk data, incomplete transactions, et cetera. So if I could show you how to change and adapt from that waterfall approach of testing, integration testing, user accepted testing, et cetera, when I'm trying to go live, that Geoff was talking about earlier. If I could show you how to compress that and turn it into very more agile-like, DevOps-like, and do parallel testings around these environments and integrate at the end. And while doing all that and accelerating the project, I'm actually removing risk because I'm actually testing deeper into the data set and wider through the business scenarios. So, and that's where, and I focus in on how we use the snapshot, the provisioning, the flex cloning, the light provisioning, those capabilities that we bring not only to on-prem, but more importantly to cloud now, right? And giving those capabilities to people within the cloud, they've always had it with the VMs, and they've always had it with infrastructure as a service on the compute side. Remember, compute's light. We're now starting to bring that to our clientele with the light aspects of making data lighter than it has been before. Why aren't you moving? Okay, there we go. So what I wanted to talk about here is, right, don't really focus on the visual on the left, on the right. On the left, GCP, NetApp, CVS, Cloud Volume Services, which we just went through in detail. With Azure, with their CVS offering, they call it Azure NetApp Files. And with NetApp, we have all-flash fashion FAS, right? So if you wanted to attach that to the HCI with the GKE Anthos engine, whatever you wanted to do from that aspect, all three of these offerings that we have for our clientele run the gamut of where you want to put your data, and they all are certified to run SAP Hana. And there was a question earlier that I heard about whether this was just shared files. This is shared files, user SAP trans, interface directories, home directories, and data and log files. So the actual OLTP engine, where it stores its redo logs and where it dumps its data volumes out to, okay? And you can also use the shared files for your / backup if you wanted to do your stream, when you do your stream backups. But Scott will talk a little bit more about how we see a better use of snapshot technology for time saving. So we'll talk about that in a couple of seconds.
So a couple of questions on the use of the underlying storage and how you guys are enabling SAP HANA. If you've ever been in a high availability infrastructure for SAP traditionally, the database and database replication is probably the #1 way to protect your SAP environment, with some automation around restarting services and moving your individual instances so that you can remain highly available.
Yes.
What have customers, if anything, done using NetApp to mitigate some of the ways in which SAP has broken that methodology with an in-memory database for HA? Because I don't think I'm as concerned about DR in the cloud environment as much as I am high availability of services. So when my app servers go down, or when I lose a database instance, etc., how do I recover quickly and keep my services running?
Scott, would you like to take that question? I'm sure you're pen up this talk, right?
That's a great question, Keith. And it's a very common one. If you look at what is the common architecture to light up a SAP HANA environment for production within Azure, it's leveraging, as you said, database replication. Instead of shared stores like the old Veritas and Sun clusters used to do, HANA has unique storage for each node, node 1 and node 2. HSR works great. In fact, most customers want to leverage that. And then they put Pacemaker around that. We are actually work fine in that environment. What we can also do, so what HSR is really giving you is protecting you from a physical VM going down. It doesn't protect you from the more common, I put something into production, something's broke, all of a sudden we have data corruption. And I mean data corruption, not like the database won't start, I mean something's broke within the application. With HSR, that change is also on the other side. So we like to say, we cover the logical errors because we can take a picture of the HANA database. It's application consistent. We leverage the Azure NetApp Files snapshot ability. HSR is handling if you lost a physical server. So HSR is handling what you were saying, the HA. We're handling, you know what, the more common errors we see is somebody doing a human error. And those logical errors, the only way you protect yourself from that is doing backups, and we can do those very efficiently and very fast.
Yeah, and the other part, Keith, so if it's a scale up, that's exactly the way you would do it. If you do it a scale out approach, you'd use an NFS file system, and then you have the +1 server, and you have that as a failover server. So if one of the engines in the database, you might have, say, a 7+1, you have 7 worker nodes, and if one of those nodes go down, the standby node would then pick it up. And we utilize our NFS capabilities and our tie-ins. And on top of that, we can provide that. At the same time, the integration in the HANA Studio, so you can have those snapshots. And there's no, it's no coincidence that SAP, when they talk about snapshots, they have a HANA snapshot, which is an application consistent snapshot within the data set. We have snapshots at the storage level. The reason why they use that terminology is that they've become so accustomed to the capabilities that we provided to them over the last 20 years, utilizing those snapshots internally.
So one of the chats that's going on in the back channel is that for those of us that speak SAP, it's like from outsiders looking in, it's like the term Smurf. Hey, how do you Smurf that? How do you Smurf that? So can we, just for this discussion, can we differentiate when we're talking about SAP applications and SAP HANA, the database? I know it blurs sometimes, but it's confusing for anyone who isn't used to the everyday nomenclature.
Yes, Keith. So good point. Primarily, everything we've been talking about right now is HANA, the database engine. We have not been talking. So when Scott talks about HSR, HANA system replication, that's at the HANA database level. Okay, so we haven't been talking anything about HANA Studio, is pretty much the studio that helps you manage your instances. Okay, so it is all, we've been talking about database engine and database application. We have not talked about like sales and distribution, or, you know, I did bring it up in the very beginning with BW. They're the different components that will reside in HANA from a functionality perspective. But everything that Scott and I have been talking about primarily has been about HANA Studio, HANA system replication, and HANA database engines running on NetApp storage. Did that explain it? Did that clear it up for the audience?
Yeah, it clears it up, but sometimes just us in the SAP community, sometimes we'll generically refer to HANA as SAP. So just watch that nomenclature.
Yep, okay, thank you. Yeah, we tend to use a lot of acronyms just like every other technology, right? So we'll try to stay away from that. Okay, so the key to this slide, a lot of words and everything, just look at the acceleration piece, right? We use flexibility, scalability, simplicity, right? And Scott, Niraj showed you the simplicity, right? Point and click, a couple clicks and you're off to the races. You have NFS stood up. In typical cloud scenarios, if you're using virtual hard disk or ultra hard disk or whatever the label of it is, you have to install those, provision those, get them attached to a VM, install that VM, get a logical volume manager running, get NFS exports, right? Create that FS tab, do all that. And then on top of that, after you get it up and running, you have to monitor and you have to make sure that it continues to run, right? Especially if you're using it for user SAP trans and those type of things. User SAP trans is where my user binaries are and things of that nature. So what we do is we show you how to utilize this cloning capability, and Scott's going to show you a refresh, but we can use it for testing systems, and we can use it for training systems, et cetera. And what it is it's really utilizing this technology and capability so you can fail fast, fail often, succeed faster, right? The whole mantra of agile DevOps development. For sake of time, I think I'm going to roll through this slide, but we talked about minimize downtime, grow as you go. Right, a secure network. So somebody asked about the security of CVS and CVS. Since they're residing in tenants that you have and domains that you have that you lease from your cloud provider, in that case was specifically Google, you're going to rely on their capabilities around network security and things of that nature. And then we reside within that domain. Okay. So we accelerate SA project. We protect without penalty. And what we mean by that is there is no additional fee for that. It's wrapped into the service, and we don't have any performance penalty when you turn on those snapshots. So some of the 4 main use cases, right, that we see with our cloud volume services, whatever the label is, it is available in several clouds. And is truly around HANA production. That's the data and log volumes. Shared files, very, very popular, especially because those shared files can get very, very large. and they're very key to what you're trying to do. With applications, you have intermediate documents, right? They call it iDocs. That's how you get your transactions from your clientele through EDI transactions. There's other things when you talk about interfaces, flat files, integration, other systems like Cognos for time cards and such like that. You might be trying to bring that into your human and capital management system. All right, dev test. We talked about that, and I think you'll see it a little bit more when you see the demo. And then disaster recovery, right? So disaster recovery is really good. That's where we see CVO, as Geoff was talking about, using SnapMirror, block-based, efficient replication. We see a lot of clients, existing NetApp customers, saying, why should I build myself out another DR data center now, right? I should just put it into the cloud, because the only time I really need to pay for the compute is when I'm testing my DR or using my DR. If I'm doing storage-based replication, I don't ever have to have another engine of compute at the target system.
So one question, is CVS support cloning?
Scott, he's saying yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
CVS, right?
CVS, yes.
Well, we support copies. We don't support a clone in that it is its own independent volume that you pay for. So today we have copies, but not clones.
Yeah,
but it's quickly
we
provisioned.
do clone it. We do clone it. We use cloning technology to make it available instantaneously. So if you have a 4 terabyte volume and you want to make a copy of it, you don't have to wait for that 4 terabytes to be copied before it's available. We create an image of it and then we copy it on the backside.
So are you guys going to walk through like that whole workflow? Because the technical capability, what you're explaining, I'm automatically fast forwarding in my head what that means for an organization from a speed and agility perspective. Like typically, whether it's HANA or legacy disk-based databases, to get up a training environment, to get up a development environment, to provision all of this took me 3 to 6 months for each landscape. Like, are you guys going to get to how this kind of solves that problem?
I'm going to turn it over to Scott so we can have the demo, Keith. And just so everybody knows, Keith, the check's in the mail. Thank you very much, because this is exactly what we wanted to talk about. So I'm going to give the reins over to Scott. Scott, just let me know when to advance the slides. And then when we're done doing the presentation, we're going to get into your demo. Okay?
Yes, and Keith, the demo basically is spot on what you just said. These slides, just a quick overview. The HANA database, if you're familiar with HANA database, for scale up or scale out, we're certified in Azure for scale up as well as scale out and +1. For GCP, as Niraj said, we're certified for scale up. There we go. So when customers ask me, first question is HANA certified? And the answer is yes. So as of November 2019, when Azure was certified, ANF certified for HANA, my calendar has been chock full from about January until I'm literally speaking 8:30 tonight with Australia folks, looking to leverage ANF for their HANA deployments. It's really simple. After the certification question comes up, the second question is like, what does it look like? And I'll get into my demo to show you what it looks like. But the screen here in the bottom right, the data and log mounts, those are typically presented, if you're using Azure Disk, it's a bunch of persistence disk striped together, logical volume manager, you mount it. I ran Fiber Channel for over a decade. It works, it's great. Persistence disk works great. It's certified, it works. The issue is the complexity and administration ability on that compared to a simple NFS mount coming into your system. The simplicity is huge. And when customers see so it's just an NFS mount, correct. And it hits the performance requirements for HANA as well as the HA resiliency. On some of the file systems that Dave is saying, like user SAP trans, interface is a huge one. Interfaces doesn't need that type of performance. It definitely needs highly resilience. So how do you do that without using ANF? You light up a pacemaker HA-NFS cluster. When you do that, you basically get highly available NFS exports. But the issue is you have a minimum of 2 virtual machines. You usually have 1 or 3 SBD devices, SCSI initiators, to essentially do the tiebreaker. So you have about 5 VMs to do HA-NFS.
What hypervisor are you using? I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt.
Within ANF. I'm sorry, not within Azure.
When he says A&F, he's saying Azure NetApp Files, which is our CBS product in Azure. So when he uses the A&F acronym, that's the Azure NetApp Files.
So it doesn't matter which type of instance I'm connecting to, whether I'm running in a virtualized instance or one of the 24 terabyte instances that Google provides. That's just insane. That's irrelevant.
Correct. It works the same.
Okay.
You can get the next slide. I'll get. There we go. Let's do the next one. I mean, this really goes into the backups. So hit build out this slide. One more. This is what we're talking about, taking pictures of the HANA database. It's nothing that NetApp or Microsoft created. It's actually SAP code within the database. I believe it came out in H1.0 SPS 5, and it's available with HANA 2.0 SPS 1 through 5. It allows you to take a consistent global synchronization point on an in-memory database to the persistence layer. The caveat is you have to ensure you have a disk subsystem that can take a quick and efficient snapshot that doesn't do a performance hit. So that's the caveat. So you can leverage this technology with A&F. We have a fast snapshot with HANA snapshot, which shouldn't be confused with a storage snapshot. Both of those together give you application-aware snapshots from the HANA database. Meaning, Keith, to your point, when you want to refresh a training system or a QA system, those pictures of your data for production can absolutely be used for a recovery point, but more often than not, you don't restore a database in production. You replicate the issue in a QA sandbox system, fix it there, and then transport those changes into production because production's always moving. Those pictures of the database allow you to do that quickly and efficiently. Can I do that with native file backup or third-party backend? Yes. The difference, for my instance, when I ran SAP, that would have been about a day and a half to refresh an environment. And when I talk to customers,
the other practical instance is that SAP DBAs, basis DBAs, don't trust storage snapshot technology.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that it's integrated into SAP and you're pressing the SAP button versus pressing a NetApp button or insert storage provider here. I've just never gotten any DBA, let alone a SAP DBA to trust anything outside of the SAP ecosystem.
That's correct. And I'll be the first. I work for NetApp, but I'm not really a storage guy. I'm more about how to leverage the infrastructure to help the SAP system help the business. And to your point, that's exactly, if I go to a shop and say, look, we're going to take a snapshot of your system. The DBAs as well as the basis people. I mean, I was a basis person for 11 years. I would say, well, it doesn't mean anything to me. Maybe user SAP trans and interfaces, yeah, it's unstructured data, it works fine. But for a database, Oracle DB2, SQL, ASE, HANA, I need some type of quiescing. And that's what SAP is built into the HANA database. You just have to have a storage subsystem that can take advantage of it. And those three commands are exactly what they are. We have tools. Microsoft has a tool called AZAC Snap that orchestrates this. NetApp also has a tool called Snap Center. Again, that orchestrates this. They're both different tools. Both have pros and cons. At the end of the day, they orchestrate the same exact workflow. So hit the next slide, Dave.
And before we get to that next slide, time check. You only have like 2 minutes on that. You have 2 minutes on that next slide, Scott.
Yeah.
And
okay.
everybody in the audience, when Scott, and he's been doing a lot of Azure NetApp file work, as you can tell, he uses the A&F acronym all the time. But when he says A&F, the same capabilities and functionality that you're used to and what you hear from him conceptually works the same manner in the same regards in CVS GCP. So
that's correct.
Cloud Volume Services equals A&F from an acronym perspective, okay?
And I apologize for that. I've just been heads down with, we just got certified for GCP and hopefully that'll be ramping up just like A&F is. And Keith, to your last comment, you said you wouldn't trust it if it wasn't integrated into the tool. This is a screenshot of what SAP HANA or SAP basis administrators would be used to. The difference is in the right-hand column, it says snapshot. More likely they're familiar with file or backends. This is a snapshot, but it shows it's 100% integrated into the application. All right, Dave, can you stop sharing? I'll share my screen.
Absolutely. It's all yours.
All right. Where is my Microsoft Remote Desktop? All right, so as Dave said, I do have a demo system in Azure. What I'm showing you here today, you can do the same thing within CVS. I just happen to have my demo lab lit up in Azure. I will also say my demo lab is very, very small. They're not leveraging M series VMs because I'm being kind to my boss's credit card. Let's just say that. So they're very tiny, but they're functional, so they work. The one thing I was showing, let me in here. So what I was showing before on the PowerPoint, this is what it looks like on the actual system. This is my demo system, but if you go to any SAP HANA shop, it's going to look similar, albeit the SID, the 3 letters, QB1. So my environment, QB1 is my production system. You can see on the right-hand side, those mounts would look familiar if you're familiar with HANA. On the left-hand side, it probably looks a little bit different. This is leveraging Azure NetApp files. Again, CVS would look very similar. It's an NFS share. If you run SAP, then you've been using NFS shares or CIF shares if you're in Windows for global file systems. We can leverage that same mount points, that same mount type for the actual database. And like I said, I've been running SAP long enough to know it's complex. If you can make a system less complex, you reduce risk and you just make it a little bit easier to run. And that's exactly what ANF does. But that's not the cool stuff. The really, I mean, it does make things simple. It does make things easier. But the data management part, what Dave was speaking about in this PowerPoint, is what we really go after. And what I have here, let me set up this situation. I'm going to use an actual use case that my previous shop had. And what I found doing this for almost 11 years with other customers around the world, it's very similar. So every SAP shop thinks they're special. At the end of the day, we share a lot of the same issues with users, as well as making this application run for your business. So in my environment right now, I have 2 systems. I have a QB1 system. We'll say that's my production system. And we'll say SB1. SB1 would be my QA system or sandbox. I don't have transactional data and I don't have application servers. Again, I'm being cautious of my boss's credit card, but I am creating users, which is similar to just a sales order, a delivery note. It's a record within the database. So Keith, to your point, if I took a snapshot of the storage system without quiescing, a user wouldn't come back. You got to have a quiesced state. So that's why I basically just use simple users. My use case when I was working as a basis administrator, we were changing the sales order screens. And if you're a geek about basis, is the VA01, VA02 sales screens. It contained about 30 plus transports. And if you're not familiar with SAP, a transport is a change within the application. In this case, it was a much larger load than normal. 30 plus transports was a pretty big change. The basis team supports the business. We also support the business process teams. So sales and distribution worked with customer service to change these screens. In my demo, I basically say, look, here's my user Mark. Mark is representing those 30 transports that we're going to change our sales order screens. What happened when we moved these transports into production, we did it on a Wednesday evening. I remember this really well because it wasn't a good evening. We moved them into the evening. About 3 a.m., Germany started calling because they couldn't enter orders. Didn't think anything much of it. When I got into work in the US on East Coast, about 7 a.m., the help desk was already at my cube, as well as customer service manager. We were taking sales orders by pen and paper because the sales order screens were not working. Here's the issue. Here's what's similar to every SAP shop. Within SAP, what happened was, in my example, let's do this. I'm going to create a user called Luke. And here's my user Luke now, refresh. So this user represented the sales order screens. Obviously, it's different. Mark is different from Luke. We were having issues in production because the transports that went in, long story short, they went in a different order. The order is very critical when you put changes in. We didn't know that the order was incorrect when we put these in. The other issue is we couldn't reproduce this within our QA system. The QA system was working fine. The issue was in real production. We have plants already doing deliveries. We had HR, we have finance. 3/4 of the SAP systems working. Sales and sales was not. We were basically taking orders by pen and paper. So what do? As a basis administrator, you think about, you can't restore the database. Could I with a snapshot? Absolutely. But you can't do that because it's so much integration happening. Dave likes to say, what's the good thing about SAP? It's integrated. What's the bad thing? It's integrated. So you can't simply restore that one file or a database. You got to refresh your system. In my environment, let me do this. So in my test environment, my SB1 is my test system. If I had, Dave says I was excited about using Azure with SAP, and I am. The ability to spin up another VM and basically get this sandbox up and running is unique into the cloud, where I was on basically in my data center. I didn't have that ability to easily spin up machines. So in my demo environment, I'm going to shut down the HANA database and then reuse this system for like a system refresh. As the database is coming down, what I also need to do is I got to take a picture of my production database as it sits right now, because last night's backup, if it was before the transports, doesn't really help me. I need to have a system right now. What does it look like? Remember that PowerPoint that I was showing you before, the SQL statements. The SQL statements are as simple as what you see on the screen. Now, I said before, we have tools to automate the orchestration of this, and we do. Microsoft has a tool, it's command line, it's .NET, it's a JSON-driven file, very customizable. NetApp has a tool called Snap Center. It's a Windows-based GUI that does the same workflow. There's pros and cons with everything in this world. The tools do the same thing at the end of the day. Really depends on what you want. In my case, I'll show you what our Snap Center tool does. So if I scroll over to Snap Center, here's my resources. Now I've already have a resource created, QB1. This is what we'll say my production system. I want to back up the system right now. So I say back up now. There's a schedule for it. I say go. What's happening from a HANA perspective, let me see if I can catch it. HANA data, SID, mount 1. Check this out. You know how Dave said SAP liked our snapshots so much they named their snapshot after ours, the storage snapshot? They actually do. You go into any SAP HANA environment and you do this SQL statement, it will create an HDB001 file system for the system database, a snapshot underscore data backup. That is the physical file that gets created as a checksum, the binary file that HANA creates. That, in addition to a snapshot of the data volume, remember the data volume on ANF, gives me that application consistency. Just doing one or the other doesn't work. So the orchestration tools are making sure that workflow is taking effect. You can do that by hand. I have customers that actually created their own tools to do that workflow. It's just important to understand it's very simplistic once you see how it works. So let's jump back over to Snap Center here. Let me click on this. So the application quiesce part, that's when it actually creates the HANA snapshot. It created the ANF snapshot already, and it's finalized the workflow. If I go back to that screen, and I do another long listing of that directory, it's gone. And that's the workflow. Creating the HANA snapshot, doing the Azure NetApp file snapshot, or in your case, if you're in CVO for Google, doing the GCP CVS snapshot, and then basically taking the database out of that quiesce mode. Now here's the other cool thing. Keith, you'll like this. So if you go over to the HANA database, the HANA catalog, here's my system database catalog for QB1. If I hit refresh, you can see there's another snapshot there. Now, the other thing to understand, we have customers with, well, one customer has a 48 terabyte scale-out database, but the snapshot from the SQL command line as well as the ANF, they're about the same time. It doesn't matter if I have a half a terabyte database or a 6 terabyte database. The process is the same. That's why when customers hear about this ability, they're not familiar with it because their subsystem that they were using before didn't support fast snapshots. When they hear that Azure and Google now have the ability to do these fast snapshots, the first question is, well, how do you leverage it? It's exactly what we're going over here. Here's the other thing. If you see over on the right-hand side, it's kind of off my screen, but if I hover over the EB ID, that's the external backup ID within the HANA catalog. It has a unique date and timestamp and a unique number. It's a little bit easier here to see it on the comment screen. This is how we tie in the two. The external backup ID has a unique date and timestamp. We'll say 0352. If we go over to the Azure NetApp Files portal, here's my dashboard. Here's my account, US East. And here's my volumes. Now remember, the volume that I was using, QB1 HANA data, that is the volume that is running my source QB1 production system. If I go to snapshots, and when snapshots come up, it will show you all the double click. There we go. Come on. It'll show you, if my screen refreshes, all the snapshots within that volume. I promise it does. Let me go back in. There we go, it's loading. So that snapshot 3052. We go back over to the HANA catalog, 3052. That's how we connect the snapshot in the HANA catalog to the Azure NetApp file snapshot. Now remember, that's an application consistent picture of the database. Here's the next thing we want to do. QB or SB1 should be down right now. If we look at the file system on SB1, it looks very similar, albeit a different SID. On the left-hand side of the screen, you see that is my volume right now that I'm using for, remember the user mark, the correct sales orders we're always working in the our sandbox here. HANA is down right now. The one thing I want to do is a system refresh. The first thing I'm going to do is unmount this data volume. And why am I doing that? I'm doing that because I want to create a clone from the picture that I just took from my source system. In SAP language, it's called a system refresh. If you're not leveraging Azure NetApp Files or GCP CVS, you're doing a file backup and file restore. It's a long process. This is much easier in that from that snapshot that we have, I can do a few things. One of them is if I hit revert volume. That's actually reverting my volume in place. I don't want to do that because production is running. What I want to do is restore to a new volume. And what I want to call this, I'll say QB1-HANA-data-clone-2. Give it a size, say 900. Hit next and create. Now, as Dave was saying before, what we're happening right now is Azure NetApp Files is giving the ARM, the Azure Resource Manager, the directions of, hey, create a new volume based off of the snapshot. From a NetApp technology, we're creating a flex clone and then we're splitting it into the background. So we are taking the full storage footprint. If I was a 4 terabyte volume, I will have a 4 terabyte volume when this process completes. The caveat is I can mount the volume before that process is finished. Unfortunately, there's no static or status bar or no time clock. What I usually do is I go into my operating system. Now remember, I updated that volume with .2. So before I mount it, from a system admin point of view, I'm going to etc via my FS tab, look for clone, say 2, get rid of that space. And the reason I do that is because look at all the mount options. This is the same thing as if I was using persistence disk. You got to make sure you use the system parameters that are tuned for your subsystem. In our case, we're using NFS v4.1. We have it tuned specifically for that. So it's important that we use all the correct mount options. So if I just update my volume name, I should be able to say mount HANA data SB1 mount. And this is the part where it's not yet done. So if we go back into the portal, you can see this is basically running. Oh, it's complete. Let me try it again. Come on. Come on. There we go.
I think you called it -2.
Did I? Good catch.
I'm not sure, so don't blame me.
Let me jump. I can easily go back in the portal and just verify that. Let me go to dashboard, US East. Come on. There we go. Let me go into volumes. Get this open. Wow, this is really slow. HANA data clone 2. Let's go to volumes. What did I call that guy? Dash, good catch. Who was that? I owe you a beer.
More a Scotch person, but thanks.
I owe you Scotch. Let me mount that back up. All right, so that was one operation I had to do at the operating system side. Basis people usually say, is there anything else I need to do? And if you look what I did, if you understand the workflow we just did, we took a picture of production, we cloned it to QA, I mounted it. One other thing, so check this out. HANA data, SB1. What do you think it is? It's this, and it makes sense, right? This is my source system, QB1 ADM. So what I have to do is the only other operation I have to do is change ownership. I can spell, oh my R, SB1 ADM star. That allows me to have ownership of the files. One other thing I want to show you. Remember that file that got created when HANA was in a quiesce mode on my source system? Well, it's there. And that makes sense, right? Because I took a picture of the database in the quiesce standpoint from an ANF point of view. I cloned it to my target system. It is basically at that point in time. You can now, for time's sake, there is a executable that you can do on this. HDB backup check as city ADM. You can get more information about that file. Date and timestamp of when the snapshot took place. Name services, versions. There's a lot of information within that executable file that SAP puts in there. That's how an in-memory database can get a consistent backup by leveraging HANA ability to do this global synchronization point with a storage-based ANF snapshot.
So a lot of people may not realize the significance of this, because if you work in container world or worlds where the data resides in a VM, this is kind of like, oh, okay, this is VM snapshotting. But that capability, bringing that capability to SAP, specifically an in-memory database, where it's unlikely to run inside of a VM, is a big deal. And these transports and the ability to create workflows, to create different environments, et cetera, is where the value is at. That's just for context for folks who either watching this video or for my fellow delegates. We just didn't have these tools. And we don't have the VMware type tools in HANA, because despite what VMware says, it doesn't make much sense to run production inside of a VM.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, and to build on that, Keith, so the scenario I like to use, and the tagline or whatever you want, the mantra, it's time machine for SAP, right? So if you understand time machine for your MacBook, we're giving you time machine where you can go back and revert to any time as long as you have a snapshot to do it. And it's even better than that, because I can clone off of that timestamp, right? So now I can go back where Scott said, he's shown you how he's going back before they put the transports in that made Luke Mark, or Mark Luke, whatever it may be.
Mark was a good one. Not to say they're not. They're both good.
But you can also go back a week. You can go back 2 weeks. So if you're doing a lot of agile testing and DevOps, and there's times when you test something and you say, was that the last iteration of that test? Well, you don't know, because you don't have the system anymore. Here you do. You can go back and make a clone of that system from a week or 2 weeks ago, and look at what that testing system looked like in test cycle 1 or test cycle 5, whatever test cycle it was. So those type of things you really can bring to an SAP and really accelerate the implementation, because you don't have to spend so much time hunting things down. Sorry, Scott.
No, actually, that was perfect, because I lost connection to my RDP session. So let me try to log back in. But as Dave said, that picture of the database, and Keith, to your point, that's why I get excited about this stuff. Within the last 5 minutes, it's the ability to take application consistent pictures of the database that basis people will have control over, to do these system refreshes, to do, just like my environment, we had to hurry up, adapt to what we had an issue. We quickly got a system up to the SD, the sales and distribution people. They, you know what, before we actually gave it over to them, we did the same exact thing as we did on our production system in this demo. We took a picture of it because what I wanted them to do, if it was truly a transport ordering issue, which it turned out it was, I wanted them to at least produce it 2 or 3 times before we did that again in production. So we took a picture of the QA system. We turned it over to the SD people. I still, Jess McGinty, wherever you are, I think he's retired now, bless his soul. He was the one who understood the transport sequence and fixed it. We reverted back to a baseline. I said, all right, this is a picture of the production database that we just took. Do the transports again into QA to see if we get the same results. We did. That point, we knew for sure because we're using a fresh copy of production. We put those transports into production. Thank God we had customer service back and running again. But understand SAP, I mean, we were shipping, we were doing HR, we were doing finance. The system was still working. We just had something broke that we had to quickly adapt to it. And I get a lot of times like, it's just storage or it's just ANF, it's just a PaaS, platform as a service. And you're right. But when you leverage these type of data management abilities, you can, from the, I call it the lowest common denominator, the storage, you can actually help the business do what they need to do. In my case and many other basis cases, it's reacting to an issue. The other issue that Dave says, projects need training and testing. Revert back to baseline, do the data load again. It's not that good. You know what? It's not a big deal. It's a snapshot and we can revert back to baseline again. Do the data load again because I don't want my production system having garbage data in there because that just means trouble for me. And my job as a basis administrator is to make sure that system's 24/7, 365 and performing. And if you give me data management abilities, that's really what it comes down to. The other question earlier on I get, is ANF certified for HANA? It is. Is CVS certified for HANA? It is. Why would I use one over the other? Why wouldn't I just use the Azure native offerings? And honestly, they work. You can't do these type of data management features that if you speak with a basis person and you show them, doesn't matter what size the database is, they go, that is something I hopefully will never have to use, but I know I will have to use it sometime in my future.
So Scott, I don't want to interrupt you. I do have a time check, right?
No, that's good. I'm good. Go ahead.
We got 3:24. I don't know if you want to try to get back in your RDP session or not.
No, it's just the restore. I mean, the important thing was showing how you could take an application consistent picture. The other part was basically just doing a restore. But this is more important with our last couple minutes.
Okay, so I just wanted to wrap up here and I'll turn it back over to Niraj and Geoff if there's any closing comments that they want. But I wanted to highlight, with COVID-19 and with all the brouhaha and with all the shows getting canceled and turning into virtual events, the first one that we were actively participated in from NetApp's perspective was SAP Sapphire, which was scheduled for early June in Orlando. And what we did was we put together a virtual booth. In this virtual booth, you can see the address up on the screen. I suggest take a picture or copy down that address. Go check it out. It is a really cool, really nice experience. You feel like you're walking into a booth. There's different rooms to go into. There's a trivia contest. I think it's still active. I'm not sure. You can't win it anymore. We already gave away the gift card. But we left it. We leased this booth for a year. So we are going to continue to update the information. So when things come out from the CVS group, right, from Geoff and Niraj, and we start seeing demos when Scott gets a lab set up with GCP and does the same thing with their console and their workspace manager. When we do all of that, we will get recordings of it. We will have TRs, tech reports, we'll have documentation, and we are going to deposit it into this booth, right? So, we're even going to look at joint branding within the booth, right? Having pods within the booth where you could go in and look at the different avenues of how you can consume our technology. So with that, I'll be quiet. I'm going to go on mute. I'll turn it back over to Geoff and or Niraj or Stephen.
Thanks, Dave. I'll wrap up here and turn it over back to Stephen. Thank you so much for the time that you spent with us today. We've walked through a lot, I know, in 2 hours from the high to the down in the details, which is why we're having this conversation. But we definitely want to continue to engage. Any questions of that? If you got SAP, you know Scott McCullough. And also for all those watching, Scott is usually first, not last at netapp.com. So if you have questions or comments, insights, we welcome those. And thank you so much for your time. Thanks, Niraj. Thanks, Dave, as well, for your leadership in putting together the SAP. Back to you, Stephen.
Thanks a lot. It's great to have you. NetApp, thank you very much for joining us here at Cloud Field Day. Those of you who don't know, NetApp has been a very frequent and popular presenter at Tech Field Day over the years. If you are interested in diving into more about these, we've actually had quite a lot of coverage over the years of NetApp cloud volumes and data fabric and overall NetApp strategy. And you can find all those videos on our YouTube channel, just YouTube/TechFieldDay, as well as our website. If you go to techfieldday.com and you click on any NetApp logo that you see, it should take you to a list of previous presentations and videos. All of these sessions are recorded and will be posted to our YouTube channel and on our website just as soon as we possibly can. We will have the videos from yesterday posted soon. As I mentioned earlier, the first 2 sessions of 4 have already been posted, so you can watch those if you missed any of that. Also, thank you very much to the folks who joined us on Twitter and the folks who joined us on LinkedIn and the live viewing party. There's people everywhere watching this thing. So we had good hundreds of people watching on the NetApp LinkedIn channel, which is pretty cool. We've never tried to do live streaming to LinkedIn. Maybe we'll try it again in the future. So we do plan to be back in just about a half an hour. So please do maybe get yourself a cup of coffee, maybe go relax a little bit and tune back in here. And hopefully we'll be back in about a half an hour with more from Cloud Field Day. Prime Image, go ahead and take down the stream.